What happens when two seasoned business leaders get together? They talk shop, of course. Sit back and listen in as Scott DeLong and Vince Moiso share from their experience around current issues facing executives, entrepreneurs, and their leadership teams. The CEO Podcast starts now.
Hey everybody, Scott DeLong with the CEO Podcast. I'm here with my partner, Vince Moiso, as always. And we're going to change a little bit today. We're not going to talk much about business. Both Vince and I do a lot of this, what we call giving back to community kind of events. You've done a lot of work with your university, and I've done some as well. And we want to talk about the value of that. What I found is, as I'm getting older, it is wanting to give back as opposed to always billing and charging and doing something for other people. Just feels good. It feels good, and I think it does good. So we decided we're going to have a whole podcast talking about some of the things we've done, how you can go find these opportunities to for people that might use some talents, and then some of the value on that as well. So I think yours was pretty easy, right? Let's talk about the University of San Diego and the football club, and you just are the past president of your football club association, right?
Actually, the board of directors, the alumni board of directors.
Alumni board of directors.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, how you got into that, and what it did for you.
Well, I will talk about that, and I love talking about that. I want to back up for a second because you started off the podcast by saying that we're not going to talk about business. However, I view this as a part of business. I think there's an obligation for business owners and successful business people to give back. And there's ways to do that within your organization. And one quick example, a friend of ours who runs a business, an event that I just recently got back from, we've had him on as a guest. One thing I loved is that he gives 50% of his profits away to various organizations.
Wow.
50%.
So that part I didn't know. So this is Skylar Lewis we're talking about. Let's talk about his organization because Skylar does good stuff.
Right?
Rise Up Kings.
So I'm fresh off of coming off his Rise Up Kings refinery program. It's a 3-day all intensive, and it was amazing. It was literally just an incredible experience. I was blown away when he said that they had last year, they had made the decision to give away 50%. 50%
of the net operating profit that the organization generates. Who's he giving it to?
So he's got a couple different organizations that he gives to, and he mentioned who those were. And so not just one organization, but I think it's great. I just think it's one is that it ties in very perfectly to the work that he's doing because part of that is very faith based, and so I think it aligns with his purpose very, very well.
Purpose and values.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's a specific example, and I think so many businesses can do that. I was never exposed. The first time I was exposed to
not many businesses can give away 50% of their profit.
No, for sure, no. For sure, no. So certainly, I'm not going to sit here and say you should give away 50%.
That's extreme.
He's in a position to do so. Good on him.
Good for him
for doing that. The first time I was ever exposed to that level of philanthropy, I saw the two brothers from Life is Good. The T-shirts. Life is Good. They're really dynamic speakers, really dynamic guys. They created an incredible business. So if you've ever been to an airport and you go into the apparel store and they've got these T-shirts, well, they started by driving a van, from retail store to retail store. They created this Life is Good, and they had a whole bunch of, stick figure guys that were doing different things just around that mantra of Life is Good. Well, they give away to a children's foundation. They give away 10%. Of their profits to that. And this is going back about a decade or so when I first saw them speak, and they mentioned that. And actually I immediately bought a T-shirt. It was $100 T-shirt, by the way.
Because of that philanthropy piece. So
he was talking about that's where I learned about the get to mindset rather than the have to mindset. Right. He talked so much about our language being, oh, I have to go pick up my kids, or I have to coach my kids, or what. No, I get to go do that, right? So he talked about the get to mindset, and they were selling t-shirts. It was the only place that you could get it at that point. It's a $100 t-shirt, but $90 of that went to their children's organization. So it was really incredible. So so I jumped on that, but those are two very specific examples of the way that organizations, and there's countless examples of that businesses and organizations have chosen philanthropy as a part of their business and purpose of their business. Now, you asked me specifically about University of San Diego.
I did.
So one thing, I think it's easy to write a check, Scott. I think at the end of the day, the easiest thing you could do, and I applaud anybody who does it, by the way, because organizations need your help financially.
Sure.
There's no question. It's easy to write a check. I think what's really difficult is to give of your time, because time is something you don't get back. Money you can make back, no problem. And when you write a check, you get a tax benefit for that.
Right.
And so you give and get immediately by writing a check. I think you do when you give your time as well.
I was going to say that exact same thing.
That being said, it's so much harder to give of your time because, time you're never going to get back. And when you give of your time, you now have to organize your days and your weeks. You're giving something up. In other words, if I get in a car, because it's 60 miles for me to drive to the University of San Diego.
Right.
So if I'm going to get in a car and go sit in a 3-hour board meeting, right, it's an hour at least each way. So I'm giving up just on that day alone 5 hours, let alone the hours to prep for that, the pre-calls that happen on a weekly basis, all of the things that
happen afterwards,
doing, the planning, the strategic planning, the events that you have to go to on top of that to support the university, and the check that you write. So it's all the above.
So you're making it sound like a burden. However,
it's not.
It's not.
I would do it time. In fact, I've been doing it for a decade, almost a decade. And as Scott mentioned, I just finished up. So I am this year, I'm the past president, the most recent past president. So I served 2 years as president of the board of directors, the alumni board of directors. And I filled various chair positions prior to that for almost a decade, a little over 9 years. And I would do it all over again. Like it was furthest thing from being a burden. I loved every minute of it, and I will continue to do that for the university. So I'll give of my time in various ways. So I sit on, judge panels, and I go speak, and, I do a handful of different things, all volunteer, 100% volunteer. And I'll do it time and time again. On top of that, what you got confused about is that we started, several years prior to that, we started the Truro Football Club. So we recognized that I played football at the University of San Diego. We recognized that there was no official booster club for the program, and the program needs money, right? It needs fundraising. More than that, we recognized that those players graduating needed mentorship. And they needed to have access to an incredible group of alumni that can help get them jobs or internships.
Sure.
And frankly, just needed help and guidance.
Just getting started in life.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And so we decided to work off of those three different pillars. One was that fundraising. Two was providing that network, and three was mentorship. So we went those three pillars, and that's what the Truro Football Club offers.
Nice. And what
I still continue to work.
And what does it do for you personally? Like that level of giving does what? What do you get out of it?
It's what I've come to realize is it's just a part of my core. It's part of my purpose to teach, motivate, coach, mentor others, to share my experience. So I feel very compelled to share the knowledge that I have in any way that I can that's going to help somebody else elevate their lives in some way. So I'm committed to positively impacting anyone that I touch in that way. So what it gives me specifically is a sense of purpose.
There you go.
And a sense of gratification from fulfilling that.
Fulfillment of the purpose, and that's what I was hoping to get to. As I'm in the same boat. So I'm currently working as a board member with an Orange County-based organization called Working Wardrobes, and the mission of Working Wardrobes is to help people get fulfilling jobs. People that maybe veterans, people coming out of the service, some others that might be formerly incarcerated folks that are having a struggle, finding jobs, or just older population and younger population as well. People that are having a hard time getting a job. Originally, the organization was all about giving them the suit. So you'd go and donate all the suits that don't fit you anymore, or right that no longer in your fashion.
I've donated Working Wardrobes.
And they would wardrobe these folks, getting them ready. But now they're doing all kinds of things like getting them ready, for helping them write their resume, teaching them how to do the interviews, all those kind of process. And it is.
We've had the director as a guest. She was amazing.
Bonnie's awesome. She's a terrific leader, and we have a huge board. There's 22 of us currently on that board, and there's some questions. I mean, an organization that small with 22 people taking their time to do that, and what are they getting out of it? We recently just did a thing with that group where they wanted to get 1-minute clips, video clips on why. What's your why? Why are you doing this? And
what'd you say?
I started crying, honestly. I mean, not full-blown crying, but I just teared up. My purpose was, the reason that organization in particular is because I have a strong belief that work is good for us. There's been a lot of free money that the government's been giving out, right? Whether it's unemployment or the pandemic relief funds and all those kind of things, and so people didn't feel like they had to work as much, and they weren't out looking for jobs. But I just believe that a job helps provide purpose. We're doing something bigger than ourselves. And now that I'm in that position where I don't really need that job anymore, I still need something like that. And that's where the giving, and I'm a big believer in the time piece as well. I agree. You can write a check and then you're done and you get your tax write-off. And I don't get any tax write-offs for the time that I put into an organization like that. We spent 8 hours there yesterday. I worked with them on their strategic plan, and I probably put in 30 hours in the last 6 months of my time, plus getting there and doing all those kind of things. But you know what it does? It fills me. It fills me.
I get it.
It makes me leave thinking you've done something good. And you're helping people who appreciate what you do. And that's the other part, is the appreciation that you get from these folks matters. Like if someone says, thanks. Like, we talk about that all the time. Showing gratitude to people, doing that. Well, when it comes back to you, like it just lifts my heart. It just does that.
Well, we went, years ago, as an organization, we had an employee many years ago who got behind this Pedal the Cause movement. It's held down in San Diego at Petco Park. The Padres, San Diego Padres backs this entire event. What I love about it, so it's driven toward cancer research. And what I love about it is everything is donated. So the Padres donate the use of Petco Park. All the food is donated from local restaurants. Anything that's a part of the event, including the volunteers, is 100% donated, which means that the money that comes in from the fundraising, 100%, every dollar goes toward cancer research. And I really love
Most organizations only get 20% of what they raise that they can use for those things. So that's great.
One piece of advice, the reason I bring that up is really find an organization that you can that you feel real passionate about, that you have purpose toward giving your time and money, and make sure that it aligns with your own values.
Your own values.
That any money or time is being well spent, properly spent. I mean, just make sure that it lines up with especially if you're going to bring it into your organization, make sure that it lines up with your values, your mission, and your purpose, and that you're going to get buy-in from others. So what I love about Padres Pedal the Cause is that, our whole team is bought into that. So many of them volunteer.
Your whole team at OGT?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great.
And so many people volunteer for the event. Many people give money. Many people ride and fundraise. So I choose to be a rider. So I do a 55-mile cycle, and then I fundraise for that particular event. So I'm going on year 6 or 7. I think year 7, and I'm super thankful for the employee, one that got us started on this with this organization and personally introducing me to it, because I love it. I think the organization is top notch. They're very transparent with the spend, and they give you a lot of information around how that money ultimately gets utilized through cancer research, and they're partners with Scripps. And so I just think, anyways, I love it.
That's great.
I love that our whole team gets behind it, and you can do a lot of different things to, whether it's volunteering your time or, again, writing a check or fundraising or, a lot of ways that you can give back on your own. And then it provides us as an organization a way to give back.
So I'm going to tell a story now about something that happened that actually changed the trajectory of my life. This was the giving back kind of a thing. So I was the learning director or learning chair at Orange County's EO group. And I found that the Chapman University.
Volunteer position, by the way.
Chapman University had space that they wanted to allow community people to bring. And I used them over and over and over, classrooms. And we actually did our first mini university there, which was a big half-day learning event that we brought in speakers and we did all kinds of things. So I was constantly using Chapman's venues for free. They weren't charged.
That event drove me to join EO.
Yeah, great. So I went to the director of the entrepreneurial program and I said, you've done so much for us. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
Because I really thought, what can EO do for you is what I was thinking. But he looked at me and he said, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, you give us all this time, the space. You've been a speaker at our events. What can I do for you? And he took that I seriously. He said, you can go mentor on one of my classes. Yeah. He says, you can sit, here's how it works. You sit in the back of the room and there's 3 community members usually, and the kids are getting up there making presentations on their business cases, and you need to give them some feedback. Give them some real life feedback. I started doing that every single week, and I loved it. I was in the classroom with these young people and these ideas, and they're looking up to me for like thoughts and ideas and guidance, and that it was like so fulfilling. Well, that became so impactful for me that I decided to enroll in school as well, because I wanted to become a teacher. I wanted to be at the front of the class instead of sitting in the back of the class. I didn't want to be the mentor anymore. I wanted to have my own class of students because that was so filling. So here's, it's kind of interesting. I walked into they had a leadership program, leadership development program, and I walked into the director of that and I said, I'd like to go to school again. And she's looking at me, and I was probably 52, 53 years old at the time. And she goes, great, we got this master's program that you can go through. And I said, no, I want to go into your doctorate program. I've got all kinds of experience and I could test out of that. And she just laughed at me. I was like, so they made me go through their master's program. I had the opportunity to go through their master's program. I got to go through the master's program, and that was so impactful. It took me into the doctorate program, and it ended up being 6 years of my life that I got to spend doing that, all because of a volunteer opportunity, all because I didn't want to take advantage of these people who were doing something nice for us, for our organization. So, what's it do for you? It can change the trajectory of your life is what it can do. Not every time, but why not? Like, what's the downside of any of that?
Yeah, there isn't one.
I got a high every time I got into that class, even when I was sitting in the back of the class mentoring.
Boy, I'll tell you, mentorship. Great. So, any of you business leaders out there right now that are listening to this right now, I would encourage you, find an organization, no matter what it is, and become a mentor. There's nothing more fulfilling, in my opinion, as a leader, right, than mentorship. And I wish that I had one of the things that drives me the most to be a mentor is, when I was younger, I didn't realize how much I had around me, like how many mentors
people were giving to you.
Yeah, and I didn't take advantage of it,
and took it for granted.
I just didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And I look back at wow, I wish that, a few people would have really been even a little more forceful around it. If there would have been programs like very specific, all these programs exist today. And I would encourage you to jump in. Just jump in feet first, become a mentor. You have no idea how impactful you will be to some young person's life as a result of that mentorship. I have one that I mentored that works for me, and he's freaking amazing. I mean, the guy is so incredible. I'm so grateful to have him in my life, and it started off with a mentor-mentee relationship.
So I've got one more story if we got time for it on something that ended up happening to me, actually through Chapman again. So I was working on my master's thesis, and I created a program. I actually created a program for my son who was struggling, and what it was is a process for him he'd wasted about 10 years of his life. Right, and he was starting to get older and trying to come back and saying, "Oh, yeah, but I got nothing ahead of me." So I created this program that I thought would work for him, and it didn't. It was here's a way to build yourself up and through education and processing, the work development kind of stuff. And it didn't work for him, but I knew it was going to work somewhere. And it didn't work for him for a couple of reasons. One, I was always dad, and the second reason was so that's a unique relationship, right? And the other was that he just wasn't ready for it. So I took this program and turned it into my master's thesis, and I called it From Jail to Jobs. And it was, while I was writing that, I met a gentleman named Stephen Kim. He was starting up a nonprofit in Orange County called Project Kinship. And Project Kinship was working with the formerly incarcerated folks and helping them get back into life. And it's amazing some of the struggles that these folks have. So I said, Steve, can I teach my class with a group of your folks? I need you to vet some of them because not everyone's going to fit, right? It's not going to be, they got to want to be there. It's not a mandatory thing that the county's going to make them go and all that kind of stuff. So I taught this class, and it was 16 weeks, and it was interesting because we sat in a circle. We just sat in a circle, no desks in front of us. And they had work and they had assignments, but it was a sharing kind of a circle that we did. And I was the only person in the group that was in business, only white guy in the room, only older guy in the room, all of that. And several things happened. Some was so impactful to my own spirit, the things that I can connect with human beings that are not like me. Was really cool. That was really good. Yeah. But here's what happened. After the end of the 16 weeks, out of the 10 people that started this course, only, I'm going to say 2.5 graduated. I say half because one guy, 2 weeks before our graduation, which is, I'm going to print a certificate for you, right? Not a big deal for me, but for them it would have been. This guy got his career job. He got the job he wanted, and it's like he was so proud of himself. So he didn't come the last 2 weeks, and I wish he would have. And I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But the other 2 guys who finished and graduated this class, I hired them.
That's awesome.
One of the 2, and they were both good workers, but one of the 2, this was a gentleman who had spent 25 years in jail for armed robbery of a bank. And he was a former gang member, carrying guns, all that. 25 years, and he finally got paroled, and he came into this program. And he had changed while he was in prison, so don't get me wrong. I didn't change him. He changed. But this guy was the best employee I ever had. He wanted it more. He needed it more. He wanted it more.
Well, Mod Pizza is a great case study for that. If you're aware of Mod Pizza, I'd encourage any listener to look them up, and that's exactly what they do. They hire previously incarcerated. They've given people a second chance to come work at these organizations. Very successful, but they found a way through philanthropy to grow a business. Like, I just think it's incredible. Yeah.
So you're right. There are business cases, and there's a reason for the business community to do this. But I think for the human community, we need to be doing this. When you have the chance and you have the opportunity, be a good human, right? So I think there's so much. I mean, even that last story, you can see get a little emotional about it. This has been a big part of my life, and one that I wouldn't have given up for anything, even though it takes time. It takes up a lot of time, a lot of donations, a lot of time, a lot of drive up to Santa Ana when I didn't feel like it on a cold winter night and stuff.
Well, admittedly,
it's worth it.
I've mentioned, it's easy to write a check. The first check was not so easy.
Yeah.
But after I wrote that first check, it's just automatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think twice about it. So I think write that first check at a bare minimum. Give of your time, if you can. Become a mentor if you can. Find an organization that you can glob onto that really feeds your passion and fills your purpose in some way, and find your purpose. I mean, you've got to I think do some inner work where you really find a purpose to what that philanthropy is going to be all about. Because I think when you find that, you're going to want to do more of it. And I think the more you give, the more you get. I'm
going to go one more story because this one is really impactful, and we'll see if I can get through this without being, slobbering all over myself. It was from Project Kinship. I got invited to their Christmas event. It was a men's group, church-run men's group, downtown Santa Ana, and they were going to have some event, right? And they asked me to come to be there.
Yeah.
And again, I'm the only white guy in the room. And I said to him, well, can I bring my son? My son was 16 at the time. This is Sean, who you know. And we drove separate cars to get there. But we got there at the same time, and we brought a couple pizzas and trying to participate and all that. And we come walking in the room, the older guys, the people that invited me, grabbed me and brought me over to this head table. The younger guys, the pastor's son, who's 25, and again, this is a group of former gang members. That's what this group was all about. They grabbed Sean. They didn't grab him. They took Sean with them and brought him over to their table.
Yeah.
And so that was a little weird for me, being a dad and having a 16-year-old not protected by these 25-year-old, former gang members and all. And it was interesting that we're going through the dinner and they're giving their speeches and all that. And then they asked me to talk. They asked me to talk about this From Jail to Jobs program. And I didn't know it was going to happen, but I did. And we left. It was fun. It was great. Well, before I come off the stage from talking, and these two dudes come walking over to me. And I've seen these guys. I know who they are. They are former killers. These are burly, like, walking up to me. Dude gave me a hug.
Wow.
Okay, gets better. Drive home. Sean and I get home at slightly different times, and I go up and start talking to my wife about the night. And sat on my bed talking to my wife about what had happened during the night and all the things. And all of a sudden, Sean comes walking through the door, and a 16-year-old comes up into his parents' room and sits on our bed. Now, that just doesn't happen. At least it never happened in my family. Right? 16-year-old boy come and sit and talk to mom and dad. And I looked at him and I said, well, what'd you think? He goes, I liked it. Dude, that's not good enough. What'd you like about it? One line that he said, it made me think different.
So cool.
That was worth it.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think these type of events, Scott, to your point, getting involved can be life-changing.
Yeah.
So thinking different is life-changing.
Yeah.
Anything like that, and I think between the two of us, we could probably tell story after story of being a part of something like that, where we've given of our time or money or resources in some way. I've elevated that, especially in the last decade. I've discovered, and I'm so thankful for just understanding how important it is to give back, and then ultimately how that enhances your life in the way you just described, which is think different.
Yep.
And that's a great way to sum up what we just talked about and what we shared. Thanks for sharing that. It's a great story. And I think if we can give back to fill our own cups, to fill our purpose in some way, if we can find that purpose and that passion that impacts others in a way, it changes their lives. And if it puts you in a position to think differently, whether that's about culture, about other humans, or the way you listen, or enhances your own relationships or anything, look, sharing begets sharing, right? Positivity begets positivity. So as you do more of that, you've heard the term pay it forward.
Yep.
I was just on a call the other day where, I had a gentleman thanking me for the mentorship and, all the things that we worked on together. And I said, I have one request, that you take what you've learned and pay it forward to somebody else.
Right.
And so it becomes exponential in that way.
Yeah.
So not only would I encourage businesses, owners, executive leaders, anybody to give, I would shout it out so that others know that you're doing it, because then they're going to do it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. The teaching that I do, right? The courses that it's not my content, it's yours now. Like, do with it what you want.
Yeah.
And use it for you and your organization, but where else can you use it? Can you use it at home? Can you use it in the neighborhood? Can you use it coaching a little league team? Whatever that's going to be, use this information and do some good in the world.
Because it teaches people to be better humans. So of course you're going to share that out.
Yeah.
All right, we're at time.
We are.
So that was a good one. I hope that everybody can take away something. So if you've made it this far into the podcast, thank you for listening.
If you're doing it now, keep doing it. And if you haven't done any of this giving back yet, what can you do?
Do it now. Start now.
Just take a look.
Never too late.
All right.
Never too late.
Wonderful.
All right. Until next time.
Thank you all.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for the CEO Podcast. Please visit us at theceopodcast.net, where you can learn more about our co-hosts and listen to past episodes. If you would like to have a discussion and dive deeper into any topic, there is also an option to contact Scott or Vince to schedule some time with them. Thanks for listening.